Hey everyone, this is Kelvin. This is gonna be my talk with John McEntee of Incantation. How are you doing, John?
Doing great. Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, like I was saying, I'm a big Incantation fan and just
Thank
a big collector of the albums. And you guys got a new album coming out, Unholy Deification, on August 25th.
Yeah, we're
Um,
really looking forward to it.
yeah, and I believe that's the 13th album.
That's what they tell me. I don't count at this point. So I just know it's the one after the last one.
Okay. Yeah, like I was saying, I'm a big fan of all the albums, but yeah, the last album, the 2020 album, um yeah, I listened to the promo of the album of that was sent to us, and I couldn't believe it. It like, to me, it tops the last album. It just kind of, I don't know, like it's just like one of those things. It seems like where you keep building off of the last one. And yeah, I really enjoyed this new album.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, we really, well, let's just say the great thing about the Unholy Deification album is just that, for us, it was a really great group effort doing it. Like everybody's input on the songs made the songs better no matter who in the band like came up with say the main riff and that kind of stuff or the main idea. It was like everyone's input kept like adding extra layers of greatness to the song or just interesting stuff that we were it was like a great feeling to be working on this and hearing everybody's contribution and having these contributions making things even better and better and better each time we hear it due to the fact of everyone's contribution. It's just a great, um, a great band situation to be in, to know that, you know, we'll say we're all on the same page, and it's like when we know what it's supposed to sound like. And when we you know, hear whatever somebody did or whatever to the song, like say added a lead or just came up with some kind of bass line or whatever, we listen back and be like, fuck yeah, that was awesome. So it's really great. That for me, that's really made the album a fun album to do. Plus I'm just happy with the sound of the album. It has more of a rougher almost like closer to like how we would sound live or something with that kind of energy to it, which I really like. I really, it was, I mean, the Sect of All the Videos album, the production was really a lot more slicker, I would say. But I think the more rougher edge production actually suits us better, especially, just giving it more of a aggressive vibe to the riffing and stuff like that. So I'm really happy with the way it came out. I mean, it was definitely a you know, we'll just say our top priority was to really make sure this album sounded the way we wanted it to sound. Sometimes the production can get away from you or you're not sure, like, it sounds good, but you're not sure if it's right. But this time we were really stubborn about it. And also Dan Swan, who did the mixing, I think got he really keyed into our sound because especially because he was able to come out to one of our shows on our touring last year and right before he was going to start mixing. And it really gave him a good vibe of what the band's really like. So when he went to start the mixing process, he was using kind of the basis of, our live sound to kind of, spearhead the mixing, um, the mixing journey or whatever, which I think was a great way to do it because all we want to do on album is sound like we do live, or get that kind of same live vibe to it, because that's for us, that's like where we really feel we excel.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a really just another amazing addition to the Incantation catalog. Um, yeah, like it definitely has that style, that like that brand that Incantation, puts out. Um, And that brand to me is kind of like a more death doom approach.
Mhm.
Do you feel like that when you write music or prepare for new albums, do you kind of focus in on that style, or do you just kind of go with what, go with the flow, I guess?
Well, um, the best way to describe it, I mean, everybody, writes differently in the band or different ways or whatever, I guess. But I can speak for myself where right at this point in my songwriting career, I really like use my imagination more to write stuff. I think about our feelings. It's like the best way to describe it is like it's an extra sense you have is like this music sense at a certain point, and like certain expressions and certain feelings. I want to get across the music, and I'll use this sense to try to come up with the basic concept of a song, and then I'll try to take those ideas and transcribe them into guitar, which is different than how I wrote early on, where I'd be fiddling around with the guitar trying to come up with some cool ideas and shapes and then write riffs. But now it's more like almost like a mental game where I know the feeling, I know the ideas I want, and I just have to find a way to capture that on guitar. um and of course, like I said, everyone might do it differently in the band, but when we get together, it all seems to really just fall together, and we just kind of know that our album's going to have like be like a journey where there's going to be the fast passages, the slow passages, the mid tempos and stuff. And it's more just trying to organize the songs and everything in a way that are going to flow together, that kind of makes sense and make you feel like at the end of the album you went on a journey or something like that. But there's not like we'll say there's not a lot of thought in like um doing it in general. It just kind of comes out natural when we're together, just or just one of us will just be inspired and just write down a couple, record a couple riffs or something like that. And then just well, the thing is we bring everything to practice with the band, where we're doing it at band practice, and you know people will kind of have their ideas, and we just kind of toss them around and see what kind of fits or what works. Or sometimes a riff will give us a kind of a concept on where to go next. Or sometimes there'll be a little more structure that someone brings to the song, I mean to the practice, and we'll just figure out does this work in a song, or what do we do to add to it or take away from it. I mean, it's a real a fun process for me to be able to um write material. I mean, I love playing stuff out live, but there's a special feeling about coming up with stuff kind of just out of your mind or thin air, and then turning it into something that really kind of means something, at least to us.
Yeah, what motivates you to do that? Like, is it um I guess you kind of mentioned it, just kind of like your personal feelings, but was there any like specific or any direct influence on this album? Like, I don't
Um,
know if you mentioned
yeah.
your bassist like kind of came up with the lyrical concept, but were there any
Yeah.
other like outside influences on this album?
Well, I mean, really the biggest influence on the album is the previous album, the Sect of All Divinities album. Like every album that we do is an answer to the last album that we did, because that's the last thing that the previous album obviously is the last thing we did before the new one. So you, it's kind of like you think about, okay, what was missing on this album? What could have been better about this album? Um, and then personally, I use those, you know, the stuff that I feel should be either expanded upon, or might have been might have missed the mark on a certain thing or something. And I like, okay, let's try to do this, on this album. We'll concentrate on that. So basically, like the first couple songs that we wrote for the new one was, I think, The Offering and Chalice were the two that we wrote, which are two of the more aggressive songs. And because I felt like on Sect of All Divinities, even though it had some fast stuff, it lost a little bit of the rough edge and brutality because of the better production. So I really wanted to make sure that the writing session for this one started off on a really intense, urgent, aggressive note instead of concentrate on some maybe the more catchier or more doomier passages. I really wanted it to kind of hit out the gate as you know the feeling that we're pissed or whatever, we're ready, to kick ass kind of thing. And yeah, I gave her a good, kind of beginning of the writing session. And then, after kind of getting those songs out of the way, we kind of were able to place other songs and figure out what stuff fits on with the album. But, like I said, the biggest influence is usually our previous album. And then after that, like I said, that gives us the starting point to build upon the next album.
Yeah, no, I agree with like what you mentioned, the tracks. It does definitely have that opening like kick. Yeah, I think my favorite track was towards the middle of the no, let's see. Yeah, Chalice is the third.
Yeah.
The Megaron, that one, yeah, that one definitely was just a kicker. And then
Yeah.
the Circle, I think actually I thought the Circle was like one of the more, I don't know, like probably like the more like progressive one. Like it just the way it builds up with the like the bass lines and right in the middle of the set in the song, and then I don't know, there was almost like a black metal section with the chanting, the ritual circles chanting.
Yeah, it was
That was pretty intense. Yeah.
yeah. And that part was really special for us because we had some guest vocalists fill in on that, which we had Jeff Pizzara from Possessed fill in on vocals on that part. Also, my former bandmate in Revenant, my band I had before Incantation, he filled in on vocals. They did part of the chant. And then we had Dan Ladavon, who's been filling in for us on some touring, filling in for us on bass on tour because Chuck can't always tour because of his job. And he did some vocals too. And it was a mixture between myself and those three on that part, which I thought was something cool because it was something a little different than what we normally would do on an album, but it fits in, I think, just perfectly. And it came naturally. It wasn't one of those things where we're like, okay, we have to have a chant part in the song. No, it was just a riff, had this churning type vibe to it. It just sounded like that would work for it. But yeah, it's I mean, overall with the album, I think, if for real Incantation fans will say that really want the raw edge and the heaviness, and I mean, to me the album has all the aspects that people could really want an Incant album because it kind of touches on almost everything that we've done to some extent, but also a lot of new ideas and stuff tossed in there. But the overall sound, I think, just has a great mixture between quality production, but also keeping the barbaric raw roots alive in the sound. At least for me, I feel that way about it.
Yeah, no, like I said, I dig it, and yeah, I can't wait to get the record and just add it to my Incantation record collection. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of going back to the band history overall, I mean, you guys, I would consider you guys like a legacy band in death metal, like, with Cannibal Corpse, like Morbid Angel, Obituary. Do you see your band Incantation as like a legacy band, like carrying on the legacy of death metal?
You put it that way, yeah, carrying on a legacy of death metal. I mean, that's kind of always what we've done. But it feels weird to be considered a legacy band. I mean, especially because we're so interested in writing new music and also the important thing for us is that we're writing new music that people seem to gravitate towards and which honestly, a lot of the legacy bands will say that a lot of times they put out new material and it just doesn't meet up to the standards that they once had as a band, or even worse, sometimes they do write good stuff and people just don't care about it. They just want to hear, the classics or something like that. So, but for us, it's like we don't see it that way, even though we know we are a legacy band, because when we play Concordat on our last European tour that we just did, we did a Europe and Australia tour for a 30th anniversary, and we added that song to the set, and that was like a highlight of the set. It did just as well as some of our most popular songs, which was really awesome for a band that's put out so much material to still put out songs. I mean, we know we believe in the songs, we know that we believe in the feeling, but the supporters at the show and the fan base are the ones that really decide if these new songs are good songs and worth it to play out live, and they want to hear them. And the fact that they do really enjoy it, hearing this new stuff is just it means a lot to us. It's like a lot of legacy bands will put out an album just so they have an excuse to tour, but for us it's like, when we put out an album, we're all in. We want to make each album the best that it could be, a proper expression of ourselves. It's not just about, gearing up for, another tour cycle or whatever. I mean, of course we tour for it, but we tour for it because we're proud of it. We want to, people want to hear new stuff. I mean, like, put in another band that's like us in that circumstance, say Immolation. They've been around for so long and they still put out great new music all the time that people are really interested in, which is great. And I guess they're considered a legacy band too, but really we're more in that area where we're still relevant, but we're also a legacy band. But yeah, that might be the way to put it, I guess, is that we're a legacy band, but a legacy band that's still, building our own personal legacy with even new material. I mean, real quickly, the Sect of All Divinity album, that album was put out almost 30 years, since our first album, and it did, the reaction for the album and the overall, like, if you you can't compare the 90s to the 2020s because it's a different music environment, but as far as like overall, if you compare everything, it's like our best album that did the best for us, which is crazy that so far into our career, our best selling album or best reaction to an album is 30 years into our career. And because of that, though, it gives us a lot of inspiration to really want to continue writing stuff. I mean, we would anyway, but it's nice to know that people actually care about what you're writing, because there are lots of legacy bands out there that put our heart and soul into writing new music, and people are just like, whatever, this is here Freebird or something,
Yeah. No, I kind of I agree with what you said, like regarding like the standard like legacy band like Metallica, like
Yes.
they put out an album, but they always play their set list is pretty much like 80% like what it was like for the past 20 years, and then they'll like throw in like maybe one or two songs from the new album, but yeah, with Incantation's approach, more focusing on like the newer material with each album, which is awesome, just because like you said, the music environment's different. Like younger people are getting more into like death metal, so, and yeah, it's definitely good to push your new stuff first, and then the old stuff is there and people can always go back to it, but yeah, definitely pushing the new material first.
Well, I think it's important to, first of all, put out a new album that is worthy of playing some songs live next to some of your fan favorites and stuff, so there should be a good reason for it to play it. But I think it's important and anytime we're putting a set together, it's important to want to put in some, of course, new album stuff. You want to, promote that, and we're proud of it and stuff. But it's also important to mix in, some of the songs that people really, want to hear, like the tried and true ones that they really like, I don't know, Ibex Moon or Diabolical Conquest or something, are usually ones that people really want to hear. But then we've been very fortunate. We have so many songs on our catalog that are, like Incantation fan favorites, that we're able to really mix and match the set each time we come to, a town or whatever. We don't have to, it's not, there are a lot of bands you'll see, Metallica is a big example, but there's a lot of bands that come to town and they only play the same. Nah, I don't know. 80% of the set is the same. 20% is the new stuff they toss into it. And every time you see these certain bands, is always that same 80% of the set with a few new ones in the front of it. And it just, for me, that's just lame, because if I like a band, I want to hear some, I don't know, rare tracks or classic tracks thrown in somewhere, just to give it a little bit more of a flavor to it. I don't think it's interesting if a band's always just playing the same bass set with with just a few added in or something.
What happened? Sorry, I got lost connection there.
That happens. It's not a perfect science.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, like we were just saying about, like, the catalog for Incantation is just it's such a vast catalog, and trying to come up with the perfect set list is a must. Like what's you guys' approach with come up with your set lists?
We just try to mix it up a little bit each time. There's what, like there's three songs that we kind of almost always put in a set list, because they're just fan favorites and stuff like that. So we reserve three for that. And then, like, for a new tour, we're going to do either three or four, probably four new songs. And then we'll probably have probably at least room for another 5 or 6, 7 songs. And we'll just try to decide which ones, what would be the best set. Usually what we do is we'll figure out what the new songs, are that we're going to play, and then kind of tailor the other songs to accent those songs. Because, like, say if some of the newer stuff is, I don't know, doomier songs we play, then maybe some of the older ones we'll play, or be some of the faster ones or something like that. But we try to always include, like, at least one off of the first album, Onward to Golgotha, if not more. And then it's just difficult, because we have, like, popular songs from different eras and stuff, so it's always difficult. But I guess the main goal is we try to mix it up. If we played a song on a tour last year, we'll try to change up at least 4, 5 of the songs. So a fan goes to it, that went to that last one, they're not getting the same exact show. But at the same time, we're fortunate enough that the new songs we add in are usually just as strong as the ones we're taking out. So it's not like the set's suffering from it.
Yeah.
But it's always difficult to choose. And I guess in recent years, I've tried to get more input from the other guys in the band as far as what to do set list wise, because at a certain point, you're just like, there's way too many songs that I want to play in the set, that it's easier to, get someone else's perspective on it, instead of my own personal perspective.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you how I got into Incantation. It was this album, the 2004 album.
Yes, Decimate Christendom. Yeah.
Yeah. This one, I got into it. The first track, just like, I think it was part of like a Century Media like sampler, and
yes,
I just started like college in Tucson, Arizona, and being a weird introvert death metal dude, like I pretty much just listened to that front to back, and then I had to get this album, and so pretty much, yeah, this is what the album that started for me.
Oh, that's awesome. It's that album, like, I mean, first of all, I really like the album. I think it's a really aggressive, pissed off album. I'm really happy with it. But a lot of times it's funny because like there's a certain segment of our fan base that doesn't really focus on that album too much. It's like an outlier album, I guess, in our catalog. But we always get like even more recently, like diehard supporters of the band that got into us right around that same time as Decimate Christendom, which is really nice to hear because it's nice to have albums throughout the career that a lot of people connected to and use that as their kind of their starting point in our music, in their music journey into the stuff that we did. So that's definitely awesome. I really like that album, and you know, I re- I mean, remember when we did that album, we were really proud of it. We even did a show in LA once where we played two old songs, then we did that whole album live or whatever. We didn't tell anybody we were going to do it. We just did it because we loved the album so much. We just thought it was killer. And it was just awesome because we did that album, like I said, full live, and nobody was like bummed out that we didn't play some of the other stuff. Like it was just nice to be able to do that. It's like those kind of things are a little too kind of, I guess they're self-indulgent and toot your own horn, but it's nice to sometimes do that, is just to prove to yourself that you could do a new album, like Decimate Christendom at that time, and be able to perform that whole album live and not have people be like, oh, that sucks, I didn't do this or that. They still were happy with it. So it was really awesome. And we're super proud of that album.
Yeah, I dig it. And then yeah, the newer stuff, I mean, I don't really go to that many live shows. I mean, I tend to like just collect albums since I live like pretty far away from like the major cities around here. But yeah, unfortunately, I haven't seen you guys live since I think 2018. It was like that. It was the tour with who was it, with Dark Funeral?
Oh, that you're talking about
The
what was it? Devastating on a Nation.
Decimation, yeah, Damnation of the Nation, or Decimation of
Yeah.
the Nation. Yeah,
What show did you see us at?
the Mesa Club
Yeah.
Red. Yeah, that was the last one. And but I since then I moved out of Phoenix, and I've been kind of in a rural area, and it's really hard to go to shows unless it's on a weekend.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I missed the last two tours you guys did last year. I'm hoping to check you guys out this upcoming tour cycle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know it's where you're at, it's a long hike or whatever, but it's definitely, even since the Devastation on Nation tour, it's like we've just been getting better and better live. I mean, the live response has been phenomenal. Basically since the pandemic, broke or whatever. So, yeah, definitely look forward to it. And if you do come out, definitely say what's up and remind me who you are, and we could chat for a little bit while we're there.
Oh yeah, oh hell yeah. Do you guys have any upcoming tours you guys are, or can you announce, or is that still on hold?
Yeah, it's still on hold. We're super close to being able to announce the touring stuff, but we just can't at the moment. But we're working on a co-headlining tour of the States, and then we're also working on some kind of headlining tour of Europe early next year. But both things are still in the works. But there is definitely going to be some touring going before, I mean, definitely before the end of the year for Incan. There's going to be touring. The album ended up getting moved up sooner in August release instead of we were supposed to originally be released in October. So we started working on our tour for November, but the album ended up getting moved up, but we still weren't able to move up the tour that we had. So it's going to be a couple of months after the album release we'll be touring, but it'll be a good tour for sure. We have have some great bands on the package, but I just can't say nothing yet. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. And then, we were talking about like the bands that are like considered, I mean, I would consider like legacy, like Cannibal Corpse, you guys, but have you played with like younger bands that you see that, have impressed you, or, really, you really see like a lot, some bands like, moving up in the ranks?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some bands that are moving up in the ranks for sure. I mean, as far as playing with, um, and as far as newer generation, the only ones like in the recent years that we did was well, Sugar Bog that we played with on the Nile tour. They were like one of the support bands for that tour, and you know they were they were impressive with how they kind of do things in their own way, which I thought was interesting. Kind of have their own twist on the whole kind of brutal, grindy, almost like a moshy type death metal or whatever that they do. I don't even know what that's considered, but they do it in their own way, which I thought was really interesting because I like bands and they're able to do things their own way and have a just have a distinctive twist on it, not just copy the old bands or whatever, which a lot of bands do. But the only other band we played, which is kind of, I guess, part of the new generation, was on that Goat Horde tour, was like Bewitcher we played with, they were really good. They were kind of an old Venom style. But as far as death metal, some of the really good newer death metal bands that are doing a lot we haven't really played with yet, like I don't know, Creeping Death or whatever. They kind of they've been doing a lot. I mean, Frozen Soul has been kind of moving up really quickly up the ladder of, one of the bigger bands and stuff in this style. There's a whole bunch of them, and it's a great thing for sure. I mean, not always is it like I like watching those bands live. I don't really, um, follow them record wise that much, just because for someone like me, it's not quite as interesting to listen to, I don't know, a band that sounds like an old band that I used to listen to. For me, I just rather listen to the original, and that's kind of what I was connected to. But I do think that it's a great thing that bands are doing what they're doing now. Like you have a Gate Creeper shirt on. I mean, that's a band
I love them. Yeah.
yeah, that's a band that really is carving out their own niche or whatever. They're kind of doing the obituary and tomb thing, but they do it in a way that still is distinctively them, which I think that's the kind of stuff that I really enjoy listening to, is when, okay, of course everybody has their influences. I mean, we did too starting, but you want to put your own flavor on it. You want to listen to it and not just think of the influences. You want to think of them as, oh, that sounds like, we'll say Gate Creeper, for instance, that sounds like them, which is a good thing for sure, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, one band I'm really like excited to, you know, see move up is 200 Stab Wounds. Like, I don't know, they got
Yes.
similar to that Sanguisugabog, that like bouncy, like, moshy, like almost like hardcore style. Like, I don't know that. I guess I don't really listen to that much hardcore, so a lot of that sounds new to me. But I'm really excited to see them. I guess put out new music and play shows.
Yes. Yeah. There's like a thing where there's I don't even, it's not, I don't think it's really, I don't know if it's been identified yet, but it's like a death metal with like a hardcore type influence. Even it's funny because even Incantation stuff, we were influenced by a lot of punk and hardcore early on, ourselves, but it doesn't really come out that much in the music. But now a lot of the bands are really mixing that like aggressive hardcore sound to death metal, which is working great for them. It's definitely like a good style of music for the younger generation that's really wants to be active at shows and really, I mean, they have great pits and stuff like that at their shows. So it's a, it's a good route for them to go for sure, I think.
Oh, yeah, yeah, no, I'm just,
As long as it doesn't water down to death metal, I'm down with it, you know?
yeah. No, like I'm just kind of like me now, like kind of secluded way out here. I'm just big fan of like albums, and
Yeah.
if I can see a show like maybe once a month, I'm stoked, and I really hope I get to see Incantation this fall.
Yeah, I hope so. It'd be great. It'd be great to
Yeah,
see you there. We really
yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah, for sure. And everyone should check out the new album Unholy Deification, August 25th. Thanks, John. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it too. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.